Wintertime golf can be difficult. You've got cold weather, you've got the difficulty of the ball traveling through the air, you've got puffy jackets that you wear, and it just makes all of the things about golf even more difficult. I'm hoping to help you better your game during the winter months with these 5 tips that I'm going to share in this video. So tip number 1, it's important to remember that during the colder winter months, the ball doesn't travel as far as it did in the summer. They say for about every 10 degrees the weather drops, you can expect your golf ball to travel between 2 and 3 yards less than it would in those balmy summer conditions. So take that into consideration when you're on the tee box or out in the fairway. So just remember that when you're hitting, that your ball is going to travel less distance in the air and likely have less run out due to soggy conditions, which brings me to my next tip. So tip number 2 is the lift, clean, and place rule. Make sure you guys are using this as long as it is sanctioned by your local course or club, whatever you're playing in. If you're playing in a tournament, make sure you verify those rules before you begin the round. Lift, clean, and place basically deals with wet, muddy, dirty conditions that you will experience during the winter months. This rule allows you to remove your ball from the place that it landed in the fairway or rough, clean the mud off, and place the ball back within 6 inches. Now some rules will vary. That 6 inches can go up to as much as a club length depending on where you play and the club rules. But do use that to your advantage. Don't just play a muddy ball, because the ball flight is going to be all over the place. You're going to get your clubs even more dirty than they would be, and it's just all around a hassle to deal with or try to predict how a ball is going to fly when it's got mud caked on the side of it. I mean, think about it. It's like a knuckleball in baseball. That thing just travels all over the place. So make sure you have a nice clean golf ball, especially if you are given the opportunity to lift, clean, and place in the fairway during these winter months. So tip number 3 is to adjust your driver. And what I mean by that is, if you have an adjustable loft driver, turn it up maybe a half degree or maybe even a full degree, because what that's going to do is allow you to get higher launch conditions and the ball will actually travel further in the air. During the winter time with the wet, soggy ground, you're not going to get a lot of rollout. So having a lower lofted driver or playing a lower loft off the tee is not necessarily going to help you like it would during the summer, unless you have maybe really hard packed or dry winter conditions. That may be a situation in where you want to play your driver as you would during the summer. Now tip number 4 is a fairly easy one to be able to do. It may sound a little silly and you may be comfortable with the ball that you're currently playing, but if you're seeking more distance in the wintertime, playing a harder compression ball would likely get you that extra distance that you are seeking. So for example, if you play a TP5 most of the year, maybe switch to a TP5X. The same with the Pro V1, go Pro V1X, so on and so forth. The harder ball is going to travel a little bit further, especially in that cold air, which is already slowing down the ball to begin with. You're going to be much better off with a harder compression golf ball. And maybe go crazy and get yourself some nitros or some top flight X outs and really rip that sucker down the fairway and start making birdies. Now the 5th tip I have for you today is to club up. Make sure you're doing this, especially during the winter months when it's getting cooler, 45 degrees and below. The weather's going to get a lot colder. When you're playing that par 3 that you normally pull an 8-iron out during the summer months, you can't pull that 8-iron. You need to go to a 7 or maybe even a light 6, depending on how cold it is, if you've got a headwind, things like that. But definitely club up and make sure that you are going to have the distance that you need to get there, because that colder weather will slow that ball down.